So this is concurrent session 3, insurance claims prevention using new predictive analytics tools. And I'm very excited to be a part of this, this group. Our two speakers are distinguished and have some really interesting things to share with us today. My name is Todd Lehman. I'm the Vice President and Chief Actuary at Quincy Mutual Fire Insurance. I am active in the CAS Institute, and we've done a lot with predictive analytics with that group. And I think throughout the session, the various sessions that we've had here today, predictive analytics continues to be a core, critical thing, a critical topic for us all to focus on. So this session is being streamed as part of our live stream event. I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our virtual audience. There are roughly about 100 folks that have joined across the globe. So thank you and welcome. Now let's get started.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and to have a chance to share some things with you as part of the education process of CAS. But I fully expect that while I'm here, I'll also be learning some things from you all. And there will be several questions that I have, and I'd really like to know your experience in these pieces. They're important to me to understand because we can work together to help solve some of these problems. I'm going to tell you a story today. I'm actually going to tell you two stories today. One is about fire, structure fire, and the other is about water that comes from within the house and damages the house. How many of you have a problem at your company with fire claims? Several of you do. More of you do. How about non-weather water claims? Plumbing, appliances, sinks, hot water heaters? Yes. It's a big problem. It's fairly pervasive. I'm going to tell you a story about both of those things today, and here goes my story. Does this work? "30 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to get out of a house once it caught on fire. Today, you have about 3 minutes. So why do you think that is? Construction, absolutely. That's a big part of it. It's a combination of construction and flammable furnishings. These things like this couch you see here, these furniture foams that are in things like these chairs that you're sitting on right now, they're sometimes called solid petroleum. So feel the solid petroleum that you're sitting on right now and enjoy that. It's in the backings of the carpet. It's in the curtains and the drapes. It's in the piping. Many of the piping pieces that go from room to room are made out of petroleum-based products that help spread fire. Plus house construction, specifically these manufactured trusses, which give you those really nice open 2-story foyers. You know, when you go into the house and they're nice and open, they're lightweight, they're super good at doing what they do. But they use metal plates on the outside that sandwich these laminated wood pieces together, and heat rises, and as it rises, those little pieces of metal twist, and those whole things fall. The ceiling collapses, the roof actually collapses in, and you've got a big claim, and you also have just doused that fire with oxygen, tons and tons of air, and it goes up so fast. So the current state of the art assumes that the probability that you'll have a fire anyplace is random. And it tries instead to predict severity. And this goes back a long time, this approach. And that picture on the left is chosen on purpose because this methodology goes back to the time when the fire suppression equipment was pulled by horses. This is true. And how fast the fire department can get to your house, and when they get there, do they have access to water, and the value of the house and its furnishings. But when a house can go from a small fire to a fully engulfed flaming thing in about 180 seconds, this method is no longer predictive of your losses. If you've ever analyzed back through your data, you will see that this type of thing doesn't really predict the losses, the claim frequency, and the combination losses per earned exposure that you're likely to experience. The reason is that unless that fire department, even with the newest equipment that doesn't have 4 hooves, is not able to get to your house within 180 seconds or so, it's likely going to be a bigger loss. So the best predictor of fire losses today is knowing the likelihood of a fire starting in the first place, not random. So non-weather fire damage, it accounts for about 14% of all residential property insurance losses nationwide in the US, around $5.8 billion a year, is an equal amount in commercial and in surplus lines, totaling up over $20 billion a year in losses. Now, predicting the likelihood of fire is extraordinarily difficult. So there's a reason why people have stayed with the other approach. It was known and it could be quantified. But do you know that 84% of structure fires are caused by non-weather risks? Only 16% are caused by lightning or wildfire. Now I know in California, the wildfires, those things get a lot of attention. But what happens is that overall insurers are being cut by 1,000 little cuts of lots of smaller events that are making up the 84% of the fire losses. They're not about these big news gathering events like those as much as they are of these other pieces. So non-weather fire damage is due to a wide variety of causes that include kitchen and cooking, failure of heating and electrical systems, intentional ignition, smoking accidents, unattended candles, design and manufacturing flaws, something that happened in the way they put together something in your house the day it was built in 1992 on one afternoon. It's very difficult to ascertain why that happened and when it happened. So the solution is to try to predict the likelihood of fire. And this data, these 2 pieces I'm talking about today, new predictive analytics and how you can use it to avoid claims. This first one is on fire risk. It's the first and only predictor of the frequency of structure fires. We built it from a vast proprietary database to predict the probability and severity of loss from fire for any address nationwide. All you need is an address. So it assumes all locations do not have an equal random chance of having a fire, builds models to predict claim frequency and losses based on risk factors for having a fire, and then you can use scores to avoid high-risk policies and underwriting. Let me show you what this looks like. Here are 2 scores, addresses. Both of these places are in not only the same state, the same county, the same community, they're in the same zip code. They may be a mile apart. One of them, with 100 is the US average, this fire risk score is 140. That's 40% above the national average. And the one on the right has a fire risk score of 77, which is about 23% below the national average. So any address can get a score that shows how likely it is to have a fire. But let me show you what that means, because if you build something, you have to validate it to know if it's going to be predictive, right? This is about predictive analytics and avoiding claims. So this is how it predicts loss. The national average score is 100, which I showed you just a minute ago, and the average loss per policy year is $158.